All right, since we've already talked about Ohio State in that regard as far as the 2022 season is concerned, let's talk a little bigger picture about the Buckeyes. I've started to see some pretty interesting and strong opinions on whether or not Ryan Day is a real coach, or whether or not he's the real deal, whether or not he's any good, all these other things, like all these hot takes. Y'all, take a step back for a minute. Let's get away from the emotions of last Saturday's disappointment. Okay, I'm not trying to sit here and say that Ohio State fans need to be thrilled about what they witnessed on the field there in the Horseshoe. No, absolutely not. They need to be really upset with the fact that they made their entire offseason and their entire season. It was always about the team up north. We're going to beat the team up north. We've adjusted things this offseason to make sure that we're tougher. We've changed and we've tried to make sure that we're a little more balanced. Like all these different things that they've done. We've gotten a new defensive coordinator. Like, we're going to take care of business this time when we get the chance to have them in our house, and we're going to get revenge. All that went by the wayside. I get that. But now to go as far as to say that Ryan Day is the next John Cooper, I mean, are we serious with that? Like, I mean, is that really where we're at? I mean, think about how many coaches, and then there's a handful, I might add. Think about how many coaches failed before they finally got over the hump, right? And people have already said, well, you know, he's never played. Well, in 2020, I know it was a weird year. I know people have their own opinions about whether or not they should have been in the national championship game, whether or not they should have made the college football playoff. I digress. They made it in the playoff, okay? And then he won a game in the playoff against what was the number one overall pick in the Clemson Tigers. And they went on and they played against Alabama. And that Alabama team was extremely good. They came up short. They followed it up the next year, and yes, they lost against Michigan in a difficult game. Michigan went on to get beat badly in the college football playoffs. I get that, all right? And then this year, they also lost to the Michigan Wolverines, the same team. I get it. But think about all the coaches that struggled before ultimately finding success. Now, you're going to say, well, what do they matter? What do they? Well, Mac Brown, you realize he won his first two games against Oklahoma, lost five in a row against the Oklahoma Sooners before flipping things in 2005 and winning the national championship. He's not the only one. Bobby Bowden. How about the fact from 1986 to 1992, won only one time against Miami, and then bounced back by winning 6 of 7 and a couple of national titles. All right. Also, too, let's look back even a little bit further. If we want to go into the dark ages, I guess kind of alongside Bobby Bowden, go look at Frank Beamer's first couple years when he was in Blacksburg. Go into different sports, I might add. Go and look at what Mike Krzyzewski did early on, or what other coaches have done early on. No one's suggesting that at this point, Ryan Day is bound to win 6 or 7 or 8 national championships. No, I'm not willing to go that far, but to compare him to John Cooper? Really? Come on, man. Like, this is a guy that's lost 2 games in 2 seasons. The guy has won 90% of his football games as a head coach. 90%. Now, you're going to say, well, it doesn't matter. We don't care. It's all about what you do against your rivals. And I don't disagree. I always think that the rivalry game record should be a piece of your legacy. There's no denying that. That needs to be of the utmost importance when evaluating what the coach does at the end of his career. Do you realize that Dabo Swinney lost how many consecutive years against South Carolina before he flipped it and won a couple national titles? Like, there are a million examples of guys that early on had their fair share of struggles and or issues with a rival before they got things flipped. How about the other side of the rivalry, I might add? How about Jim Harbaugh? How about the fact that Jim Harbaugh, they were going to run him out of town? 0-5? 0-5. And would have been 0-6 had the game not gotten canceled in 2020. 0-5. against Ohio State prior to last year breaking through. And now all of a sudden, he's figured it out and Ohio State's forgotten how to win. To me, I think that we've gotten a little bit too overreactionary when it comes to Ryan Day, what kind of coach he is. The guy's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal coach. But give him at least an opportunity to adjust and tweak, just like Jim Harbaugh was given the opportunity to adjust and tweak. I understand how frustrating it must be to lose back-to-back games to your rival. I get that, especially when it's been 2 decades since you've experienced consecutive disappointments. I get that. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater here. Because when you look at what Ohio State's accomplished under Ryan Day's leadership, they have been pretty dang successful. They've put guys into the NFL. They continue to stockpile recruits. It's become a destination in the transfer portal. Guys are going to continue to get drafted in this upcoming draft at several different positions. And, you know, if you need any other information, the guy's 45-5 in his career as the head coach at Ohio State. That includes the 3 games that he had in the interim back in 2018. Remember when Urban was suspended and he was the head coach for the first 3 games. The guy has never lost more than 2 games in a season. That was in 2021. Okay, so he's been really good. And I think that it's easy to get caught up in the moment that is right now. It's easy to get caught up in the emotions of the disappointment that you experienced last Saturday. I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't feel a certain way. I want you to. I'm glad you feel strongly about it. But let's not get overreactionary and start comparing Ryan Day to a guy that perennially came up short, or at least felt like always came up short when leading Ohio State there, late 80s, throughout the 90s, and then into 2000. Okay? Ryan Day's going to be just fine. Is he Urban Meyer? Not right now. No, he's not. But he's a lot closer to Urban Meyer than he is John Cooper in my eyes.